Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. You can all hear me properly, right?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much for confirming. We'll start the session. I'll share the screen with you, and today we'll be discussing or we'll be looking at few questions in um, adjectives and adverbs. Okay. But just confirm with me after you can see the document clearly. Is it visible to you? Yes, no? The screen is visible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'll see if I can also take up a bit on prepositions. But if not, we'll stick with adjective and adverb. If time permits, we'll maybe discuss a little bit on that and try and solve a few questions that we have. Otherwise, we'll let that be and we'll take it up for the next session. Okay. Maybe along with articles. So I'll not waste much time. Let us start for today's class. Um, so uh, I hope most of you will have an understanding of what adjectives and adverbs are, right? So we have already, some of us, or maybe most of us, have already looked at these things as separate units or maybe as parts of sentences before. So for our course, right, we're not going to get into a very detailed discussion on what adjectives and adverbs are. Traditional grammar books may have a lot of them, particularly when it comes to the discussion of types and kinds of either of these, whether adjectives or adverbs or even prepositions, right? So we're not going to take up that approach where we are going to tell you about, okay, this is adjective of that or this is adjective of this. Like, for example, you might have heard like demonstrative adjectives, indefinite adjectives. We're not going to go for that kind of distinctions because in terms of learning or teaching grammar for our course, what we mostly adopt is a functional approach, right? Which means you only need to know what each of it does in a statement or in a sentence, right? Or what are the roles that they play in a sentence. If that much is understood, if the functional aspect is understood, then the kinds and all are not that important to be known, right? That you can describe or talk about it without. Here is that you are able to identify these parts or these constituents in the sentence based on the functions that they perform, right? So that's the approach of both teaching and learning that we subscribe to for our course, right? So based on that, adjectives and adverbs are classified or they are discussed as modifiers, right? The difference between both would be only based on what they modify. Okay, modifiers or some people might want to call it qualifiers. Okay, both mean the same. Whether you say it qualifies something or it modifies something, the meaning is more or less the same. There is no much of a massive change in what each of it means. So either you say modifies or you say qualify, both would be considered right. So getting back to what I was talking about, the difference between each of this, both, whether that's adverb or adjective, is only based on what elements do they modify in a sentence, right? Both of them are modifiers or qualifiers, but they modify separate things, different things, right? So in case of adjective, what do they modify? Because I assume you might have watched the lectures or you also have prior knowledge of all of these things, right? What do they modify? Any answers? Some of it is also on your screen, so it shouldn't be a difficult task for you. Yes? Anybody?
Yes, ma'am. I think adjectives modify nouns when they tell about
Yes.
nouns.
Only nouns?
Uh,
What do
not
you have your
pronouns can also be there.
yeah. Correct, correct. So see, this is one part that you need to remember, not just for, understanding what adjectives and adverbs are, but even in the future, when you're introduced to other aspects of grammar, keep in mind, most of the times, a particle that is associated or a segment that is associated with a noun is also automatically associated with a pronoun because noun and pronoun functionally have the same role to perform in a sentence, right? So the traditional definition that we use for pronoun is that it stands instead of a noun, right? So if it stands instead of noun, then it's also going to have noun-like qualities, which we also refer to as nominal qualities, right? So keep in mind, if you're talking about noun in a grammatical context, most of the times even pronouns are also associated with the same grammatical concept. And that is the same in case of adjectives as well, right? So adjectives, they don't just qualify nouns, but that is anything that is noun-like, which will also include pronouns, right? So what do they do? So this second statement that you see on the screen, this is basically it gives you an insight into the kinds of adjectives that you have. I don't think you need to learn them as categories for your course. But just to your understanding, to know a little bit more about what kind of adjectives are available in languages across the world, that sentence might give you an insight. And what is that? Adjectives usually tell what kind, how many, or which about nouns or pronouns. So all of that, no, what kind, how many, which, these are all different kinds of adjectives. We are not going to learn about them by naming them as something or the other, but we're just going to understand a little detail about what could make an adjective. And that are these, what could make an adjective? Any word that can tell us about what kind, how many, or which of the nouns or pronouns. Okay, all of them can make up an adjective. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, will you please increase your volume?
My volume is on full, my dear. Is that the case for others? Can others hear clearly? I
Yes,
wasn't
ma'am.
able to hear that. Okay. Thank you. Check the volume or other things on your side because mine is on full. Okay. All right. So, okay. That's about adjective. Now we're going to move on to talk about adverb. Right? These are small elements. Like we're just starting off with what, a sentence, what would help us in sentence construction. We have not yet reached that stage. That most probably would be done in detail for your course too. So at this stage, we're only looking at constituents from a closer quarters, right? Maybe a little different than what you understood then. Uh, all this time. So adjective is one kind of modifier. So that's the discussion on that. Now the second thing is what? The adverb, right? Adverb is also a modifier in the sense that it also adds quality to some other constituent element. Essentially, it also functions like an adjective. So like I told you in the beginning, the difference between both of them would be that what is it that both of them qualify? So adjective we discussed already. Now let's look at the adverb part, right? What does an adverb qualify? It can qualify an adjective, right? So adjectives qualify noun or pronoun. Now the same adjective can be qualified by an adverb, right? So that's the first element that an adverb can qualify. The second element that an adverb can qualify,
And which
we
week
all
to
know, is a verb. Sorry?
which week lecture is
Which,
this?
which week lecture is this? Must be week 2. Haven't you watched the week 2 lectures? I think it should be part of that.
Ma'am, I've
Are
watched
you from
all
English
the
1?
lectures till now. I was just confirming.
Uh-huh. Okay. Right. So, adverbs can qualify, like mentioned, adjectives. It can also qualify. Usually, when you talk about adverbs, the first answer that you get from people is that yes, it qualifies or modifies a verb. So, yes, it qualifies a verb, and additionally, it can also qualify an adjective and another adverb, right? So, three things: adjectives, verbs, and another adverb. So, the verb that qualifies another adverb, the kind of adverbs that do that, we call them the degree adverbs, right? For example, very slowly, okay, or very fast. So, what's the degree adverb? Sorry, what's the qualifying adverb here? In very fast, for example, you have a phrase very fast. What is it that functions as a degree adverb, as in the adverb that qualifies another adverb? Which one is that?
Very.
Very.
Very,
Very.
right? Very. Correct, correct. So words like very, so, really, rather, almost, quiet, right? All of these are classified as degree adverbs, and their functions are to qualify or show the intensity or the depth of another adverb, right? So that's all you need to know about the functionality of an adverb. Now, just like in the case of adjectives, there are also different kinds of adverbs. So instead of naming them, okay, as say manner or place or time and all that, what we prefer you to know is what kind of words make up an adverb. So what kind of words make up an adverb? Usually the ones which describe an action in terms of how, when, where, and to what extent. So the last one, to what extent is your degree adverb? There are more classifications, but the basic classifications you need to know are these. Okay, the basic kinds, basic types of adverbs that make up that particular category are the ones that describe an action in terms of how has the action happened, when has it happened, where has it happened, and to what extent has something happened, right? So these would form most of the adverbs in any language that you discuss. Okay. Any confusions or questions as of now? These are very simple things, but some of the words themselves can create some confusions. That's the reason this has been taken up for even a worksheet. Otherwise, there's no need, right? It's basic and most of the people might know. But what we have observed over the years is that there are specific terms or words that belong to either of these categories and are confusing to people. So it won't be a bad idea to discuss them at least once, right? Any questions on the explanation part? Anything that's unclear to you? Most of it is there in the lecture itself. If you watched them and understood them, then shouldn't be a problem. But if not, at least I think what we've discussed in the beginning till now should be all right for you to make you understand what adjectives and adverbs are. Anything? Any questions or any doubts? No? So shall we move on to the question part?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. So let's take up the questions then. I am signed in through a mobile, so there is a limit to how much I can zoom in. But I think, like I say every time, I can zoom in at your end also. So please do that in case you cannot see or read clearly. Okay. So the first question here, your task is to figure out the right adverb or the adjective. Right. One of it would be the adjective, and the other would be adverb. Uh, you have to pick them up correctly based on your understanding of what adverb and adjective as we have discussed in the class. Okay? So the first one, Meenal correctly explained the terms. Which one do you think is right? Do you say Meenal correctly or correct explained the terms?
Correct.
Correctly.
Correctly, right? And what would be the reason? Why correctly and not correct?
Uh,
Okay, what is correctly? Is it an adjective or an adverb?
Ma'am, it's an adverb.
Adverb.
Explained.
Right? So, correct. So it's an adverb, right? Correctly is an adverb, and that's what you have chosen. Why did you choose that over correct? And what is correct? Correct is a
Noun. Correct is a
correct is a
noun.
noun. No. So if I say something like correct answer, right?
No
Is
adjective.
Adjective.
an
It's an
adjective.
it's an
adjective.
adjective.
Correct, correct. Correct is an adjective. So between correct and correctly, correct is an adjective and correctly is an adverb. You have chosen correctly. Now, why is that so? Why did you choose correctly over correct? Both are modifiers. Why
And
correctly?
because information about the verb.
It gives you information about the verb, right? And more specifically, it qualifies the verb explain, right? So when you say correctly, you are qualifying the verb explain and not anything else. If it has to be an adjective, it needs to qualify a noun. Here, that's not the case, right? Now, let's look at the second part of that same sentence. The answer sounded correctly.
Correct.
What's the term? Correct, right? Now, here, why did you choose correct? Because you are qualifying what? Which part of the sentence does correct qualify? The answer, right? The answer is what is being qualified by the word correct. So, correct is an adjective, right? Now, this particular sentence, the answer sounded correct, right? This is an example of how you use adjectives in the predicative way. Actually, what does it mean? The answer sounded correct. I can simply say correct answer, right? So if I'm using it as, a phrase like correct answer, wherein the adjective is right next to the given noun, right? Then we call it as the attributive usage because the adjective is used as an attribute next to the noun. Correct answer. Here, what did we do? We said the answer sounded correct. So the adjective is separated away from the noun and this is called the predicative usage. Usually in sentences, you can see both the uses. Some sentences may have predicative use, some may have attributive use. So I can say, she is a good girl, right? Or in this case, this is used as what? This is an attributive usage, good girl, right? Or I can also say the girl is good. This is a predicative usage. In both cases, good is your adjective. The only difference is that one is used closer to the noun, the other is a little far away from it, right? That's all. I am just letting you know because I, at this moment, cannot recollect if the lecture mentions the predicative and attributive usage. In case it mentions, this is the difference. Okay. If not, ignore. But in case it mentions, then this is how you use the adjective in its attributive and predicative form. Okay. All right. Second question. Maya, quickly, quick. Adjective, please.
Quickly.
Quickly, right? Very similar to the
Quickly.
first one. Again, what is
Yes.
being described and what is being modified is your verb adjusted. Right? So quickly adjusted the piece. Now, while we do all of this, also pay attention to where are these adverbs placed in the sentence, right? This may not be of immediate concern to you at this point, but certainly at a different time and events. I don't know if it is a part of one of the modules in this course, but certainly they'll ask you for positioning of words in a sentence, right? Where exactly will this word belong in a sentence? Where will it be placed? Positioning, right? So you won't be asked where is it positioned, but you might get sentences in which the order is, maybe placed somewhere. And you might be asked whether the given sentence is grammatical or not. So even for that purpose, we can take a note of such things. So where is the adverb placed here in the sentence? So Maya quickly adjusted the piece. What is its positioning? Before the noun, right? So mostly it precedes, sorry, not noun, verb, right? It mostly precedes your verb. So Maya quickly adjusted the piece. Meenal correctly explained it. The usual positioning of verbs and particular methods of manners, like this, the one which ends in L, they're usually placed right before your verbs. Precedes the verb. Okay. Okay, the second part of it, she adapted quickly to any situation. What would you choose? She adapted quickly to any situation.
Quickly.
There would be quickly.
If you're commenting the answer, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the chat box because if I move away from the screen, then your access to the screen would be lost. Is it she adapted quick to any situation or is it she adapted quickly? Huh?
Quickly.
No,
Quickly, right?
quickly.
Again, so see, quickly. Now here if you observe, the adverb has followed the verb. Even if that is the case, the part of the sentence that it modifies is quickly only. It cannot be anything else, right? So you can ask the question, how did she adapt? Quickly. So if it is answering the question how, then definitely it has to be an adverb and an adverb that qualifies the verb, right? How was something done? So then it also tells you that the most commonly accepted positioning of the adverb in a sentence is before the verb, but because adverbs are also fluid categories, right? They can be found elsewhere in the sentence also. There's only one position where the appearance of adverbs is restricted, and that is at the end of the sentence. There are very few adverbs that are allowed at the end of the sentence. Usually, they are not permitted at the end of the sentence. But before or after the verb, sometimes they are permitted grammatically. But the most common position of any adverb in a sentence would be before the verb. Okay? Before the verb, it qualifies. Keep that in mind. I don't think at this point you might have questions on that, but in case you just to test, if they ask you something, then keep this part in mind. Okay, third one, I measured the floor exactly.
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 Same thing, right? I measured the floor exactly. So again, answers the question how. So it has to be exactly. Measured, the verb measured is what it is, qualifying, right? Second part of it, they were of perfectly perfect, exactly measurements. They were of
Perfect.
perfectly or
Exact.
perfect. What would be the first one?
Perfectly exact.
Yeah, it has to be perfectly exact, right? So perfectly is what? It's an adverb. Exact is what? Exact is adjective, right? It's an adjective because look at what it is qualifying. Measurements. And what is measurements? Measurements is a noun. So that is being qualified by the adjective exact, which is in turn modified by the adverb perfectly. Right? So we discussed, right? An adverb can also qualify an adjective. So here the adverb perfectly is qualifying or modifying the adjective exact, which is modifying the noun measurements. So they were of perfectly exact measurements. Okay. Fourth one, the stillness of the valley was awfully or awful.
Awful.
Awful, right? Awful. The stillness of the
Awful.
valley was awful. Okay. And what is it here? Is it a is it an adjective or an adverb?
Adjective.
Adjective, right? So basically, you can also say awful stillness of the valley. So awful is an adjective. When used in the sentence, it's used in the predicative form. The stillness of the valley was awful. Now, the valley was awfully awful still.
Awfully.
Awfully, right? The valley was awfully still. How was the valley? It was awfully still, right? Okay. Fifth one. It was a dangerously or dangerous mountain to climb, and the man was dangerous or dangerously drunk. First one, it was a
Mountain.
Dangerous.
West Mountain.
it was a dangerous mountain to climb, and the man was
Dangerously drunk.
Dangerously.
Dangerous
the man
drink.
was correct. He was dangerously drunk. Okay. Right. Now, sixth one. Yeah. Any questions, anyone? Okay. She danced magnificent or magnificently.
Madam,
Magnificently. Magnificently.
Magnificently.
Yeah, magnificently. Yeah. If someone, is there anyone who has a question? I heard someone calling me.
yeah, because I'm not able to see the screen in a bigger this thing. Is
You
there
need
any
to
issues?
zoom. There are no issues. You will have to zoom it at your end. Try zooming it
Uh,
at your end.
yeah, but I am in laptop. But if I zoom, it will go out my screen because I cannot
Not
move the
you.
screen.
You have to check your settings. I think it is possible on laptop also. If there's anyone who can guide, you can send him a direct message or something. Okay.
Ma'am, are these lectures recorded?
It's not possible.
Ma'am, basically we have
So
to
once,
just zoom in through that with the help of two fingers so that we can check the screen out. Or else if they are using some hygiene laptop, then they can just shift to F11 and it will zoom out the presentation.
yes.
Is it available
Try
recorded?
doing it. It is available.
Where can we find it?
You can find it in the calendar itself. Wherever you have accessed the link to the class, you can find it there.
Okay.
There'll be playlist that will be uploaded. You can see it. All right. Okay. So the second part of the sentence, everyone said that it was a magnificent or magnificently performed. So what do you think is the answer there?
Magnificently.
Everyone said that it was a magnificently performance. What do you think?
Magnificent.
Magnificent, right? Because performance is a noun and only an adjective can qualify it. So magnificent performance. Her voice sounds, seventh one. Her voice sounds beautifully or beautiful.
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 Correct. Beautiful. Second part of it, she sang the song exactly as it was written.
Exactly.
Exactly.
How did she sing the song? Exactly. She sang the song exactly. How did she sing the song? She sang the song exactly as it was written. We heard it perfectly perfect.
Perfectly.
Perfectly.
Perfect.
We heard it perfect. Correct. So her voice sounds beautiful. She sang the song exactly as it was written, and we heard it perfectly. Okay. So eighth one. Dave was a very sensible person.
Sensible.
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 Sensible
Second
person.
one,
Because
sensibly.
correct. Sensible person because person is again noun, so we need an adjective. He acted very sensibly.
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 He acted very sensibly. Correct. Ninth one, Mayank wrote too slow or slowly on the exam.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Wrote
Slowly.
too
Slow.
Slowly.
slow. Okay.
Too
Why
slow
slow?
on
Why
exam.
slowly? Why slow? Why slowly? So you tell me, uh, what is being qualified here?
The work.
The verb. You
Time.
mean the verb, right? Mayank wrote to. How did he write? He wrote slowly, right? So
Slowly.
you don't say he wrote slow. This is again a common mistake that you find in our place, right? People would end up writing slow sometimes because both of it sounds similar and okay for us. But when you write it in English, it has to be slowly because why? English classifies slow as an adjective and slowly as an adverb. So if you're classifying a verb here, then the choice has to be always an adverb. You use slowly. Right? Mayank wrote too slowly in the exam. Then he always writes.
Slow.
Always writes.
Slowly.
He
Slowly.
always writes slowly.
Slowly.
You're also slowly. How does he write? He always writes slowly. Again, you're classifying or qualifying the, sorry, not classifying, you're still qualifying the verb, right? How does he write? He always writes slowly. There's another adverb in this sentence. Can you tell me which one that would be?
Always.
Always, right? And always is an adverb that shows frequency, right? Okay, always is also an adverb here, and so is slowly. Okay, okay. 10th one. Talk softly or soft, or don't talk at all.
Softly.
Softly,
Softly.
right? By the logic that we're using until now, it has to be again softly only. This is also an often found mistake, right? So you don't. There are a lot of people who would write talk soft. It's not talk soft. If you're using a verb, then definitely it has to be an adverb. So talk softly. The music played softly or soft?
Softly.
Softly. Softly again, right?
Softly.
Softly again. Correct. Correct. Okay. What is the next one? 11th one. Akash knows the lesson very good or very well?
Very well.
Very well.
Very
Well. Okay. Very well. Why not very good? Why not very good?
Ma'am, good will be adjective.
Ma'am, good
Hmm.
is,
Yeah. True. Correct. Correct. You're right. Right. Good is an adjective, so you cannot use it along with. You can use with very. You can use very good, but in this case, what is being qualified? How does he know the lesson, right? So that is what the verb know is that which is being qualified here. So you cannot use very good. If it was the lessons that we are talking about, then yes, but not the verb. So when you're using verb, then you use the adverb well, very well. Okay. Some of
Yes,
these
ma'am.
things will come to you by convention because you've been using the language for a while. But it's always good to know why not this and why that. Okay. Now, second part of it, she always treats us good and well. Which one?
Good.
She always treats us. Treats us good or well.
Ma'am, can it be both?
She always treats us good is a very uncommon use. We
treats us well.
uh,
Well.
treats us well. Okay, for the same reason
As
that
well.
good cannot be used as an adverb here. The question is how were you treated? How was someone treated? So the answer has to be an adverb. Well is what will go there, and also she always treats us good is I would say a wrong usage. It's not something that you would see used frequently or used at all, in fact. Right? So she always treats us well. You, 12th one, you must send payments regularly.
Regular.
regularly.
Regularly. How?
Regularly.
Regularly. We deal on a strictly or strict cash basis.
Strictly cash basis.
Strictly.
Strictly.
Strictly, right? Correct. Strictly. Again, answer the question how. How do we deal? We deal on a strictly cash basis. Okay. 30. The
The mechanics tools
mechanic tools were well good.
good.
Tools
Well,
were good. Right? Here you can use good.
Good.
You can use good. Yes. Uh, yeah. Well sometimes is also used as an adjective, but in this case you will use good, okay? Because where well is not something that is used commonly or is used in convention. So good is the appropriate choice of answer. The mechanics tools were good. The part of the sentence that is being described or qualified are the mechanics tools, which are nouns. So obviously the adjective good would be. Okay? The second part of it, the foreman said that his work was good or well done.
Well.
Well done.
Well.
The foreman, okay. 14. She worked carefully with the sick old man.
Carefully.
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 Carefully with the sick old man. She was a very carefully worker.
Careful.
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 She was a very careful worker, right? Very careful worker, not carefully worker, because what is being qualified is the noun worker. So careful, not careful. 15th one. He did not lift the weight as easy or easily as he thought he would.
Easily.
Easy.
Easy.
Easily.
Easily. Again,
Easy,
because the
Easily.
he did not lift the weight
Confusing.
as easily as he thought he would. As easy as he thought he would. No, it has to be easily because we are
Adverb.
talking
So
about how.
easily only.
Correct. Because we're talking about how the weight was lifted, right? So easily. I find this documentary, last one here, I find this documentary very interesting,
Interest,
interestingly.
Interesting.
interesting,
Interesting.
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 Very interesting. Correct. I find this documentary very interesting. The second part of it is it was interesting, interestingly shot.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Interestingly.
How was it shot? It was shot interestingly shot. Right. So this one would be the adverb interestingly. First one has to be the adjective interesting. Right. Now, also one more thing, because we are discussing adjectives, I would like to introduce to this concept of participles. You might already know them as past participles or present participles from your previous grammar classes. But remember, this particle that is referred to as past participles, or to be more precise, the the verb-like particles which carry the ed suffix, right? Ed. So something like worried or bored or interested or something of that sort. They mostly carry ed suffixes, right? The past participles, and the present ones carry the ing participles. Sorry, ing suffixes. So both of these participles, both present and past, the one with ed suffix and ing suffixes, can act as adjectives also. So look at this one, particularly the last example you have here. I find this documentary very interesting. This is a predicative usage, which means if I have to use it as an attributive one, then I would say interesting documentary, right? So you know what is the adjective here? It is interesting. But we also know that it's a participle, right? Because it has an ing suffix to it. Similarly, you can have something else, like you can say interesting documentary, you can say boring documentary, or overwhelming experience, right? So some of these ing ending words, participle words, they can be used as adjectives also. The ed ones can also be used, right? So for example, you can say uh, soiled coat, right? SOILED coat. That means, something that has some kind of dirt on it. So soiled coat, a soiled coat. So here again, you see a ED with the word here, right? It's a past participle usage, but here again, it is used as an adjective. So watch out for such things also. Sometimes in the exam, you might get questions of that sort. And please check it once again to see if it is used as an adjective. Just because it has the ed or the ing suffix, do not automatically assume that they are verbs, because they can also be used as adjectives, like I just told you. Understood? Any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's one bit on that. And I think, yeah, we have sufficient time to discuss these ones. Prepositions. How well are you doing on prepositions? Are they confusing or are they okay for you?
Too much confusing.
Too much confusing. Some of the prepositions, yes, particularly the three main prepositions, the in, on, and at, right? They are used as prepositions of time, place, and direction. So they are used in multiple ways. Hence, they can certainly create some kind of confusions. And of course, the other
Ma'am,
ones
can
also.
you repeat them? Means the examples that
Which
you
one?
give.
Which examples?
Yeah. The examples of that make confusion of preparation.
Preposition.
Yeah, as you said that there are some prepositions
Ah.
which make confusion. So the preposition.
No, see, these are the, listen, see, these are the most commonly used prepositions, right? In, on, at. They are very common. They are the most commonly used ones also. And they are also the ones which can create confusions for people, because prepositions like in, on, at, they can be used to, show time. It can be used to show place, and can also be used to show directions. Because of its multiple usage, sometimes people can get confused, right? So to begin with, I had another exercise with that, which is missing here. So next time when we meet, we'll discuss a few with them exclusively and then move on to articles. Uh, but so that we can save some time next week, I'll just brief over what these non-at is, right? So in terms of using the preposition in to show the relation between a noun or a pronoun in the sentence, and if it is about time, then in is usually used to refer to things like season. So, like for example, I will go to my grandma's home in summer, right? So, if you're talking about season, then you won't say on or at. You usually use the preposition in, right? Now, you can always ask, how will I know? Some of these things are part of what we call as collocations in language. Did you see that lecture on vocabulary and all yet? Or is it yet to come?
Yes, ma'am, I have seen that.
Oh, you have, right? So you're going to get questions based on word collocations in exam. Basically, you're asked to pair two words that go together. So prepositions are also part of that kind of arrangement in the language, that certain prepositions will only go with certain kinds of words. So for example, if I use a word like differentiate, right? What would be the preposition that follows this word? Differentiate.
With.
Differentiate with or between, right? Between. Differentiate between. And if I have, say, another word like interested, then interested would be followed by what? This preposition. I am
Maybe
interested dash to answer. Huh?
In.
In, right? So similarly, with respect to most of the preposition in English, they are collocated. By collocation, we mean that they can go with only certain words, fixed words. They won't go with each and everything. The ones which are a little more fluid are this on at, right? But again, they are also based on the relevant meaning that it needs to produce, right? So we have one set of prepositions which are collocated prepositions, that is the ones which only go with certain words alone, like the examples I gave you. And then you have the more commonly used ones like the in, on, at, right? So getting back to the discussion on in, so when they are used with respect to time, in is mostly used with season and couple of other things, right? But mostly seasons. Or if you're talking about, say, day, then which preposition do you use? Do you use in or at or on? Like, for example, I'm going to see my friend dash Monday.
On.
What is the preposition? On.
on.
Right? No, going on Monday, right? So with days you use on. How about dates?
In.
Dash 17 May 2024. That's on 17 May 2024, right? So no, not in. It's on. Okay, not in. So for both day and date you use on. For seasons you use in. Right? Where is at you?
तुम्हें जाना होगा तब
Where do we use at?
ठीक
Please
गद्दा
mute
रखा ही है
yourself. Mute yourself, please. Okay. Where do we use at?
के ना
Where do we use it? If I to say, I will leave the office dash 5 p.m. That's an exact time. So to show that I used at 5 p.m. So at is mostly used to show you the specific time, like the dot time. In usually for season, which means to refer to a period of time, right? And the other one, again, another specific one is on, which is usually used with days and days, right? So these kind of differences exist between in, on, and at in terms of prepositions of time. Yes, go on.
Yeah, I will leave the office by 5 p.m. Is it correct?
Yes. By is also right, but right now we are discussing only in on at, right? So I am talking with reference to that.
Okay.
Okay. So with respect to time, when you use in on at, these are the uses, right? At particularly is used only to show specific time, right? A dot time, right? When you use it with reference to place in on at, again, this can also be used to show the place, right? The reference to places. In that case, it is basically based on where exactly you can place the nominal thing or the noun or the pronoun in question. Look at the sentence. I work dash the field, or my brother work dash the field, whatever the subject is. What will you use? Will you use at or in or on?
Ma'am, repeat the sentence.
Okay, I work dash the fields. Fields, fields, right?
In the field.
In the fields.
In the fields, on the fields or at the fields?
In.
In. Why in? Why not on?
It's a collocation, no?
No. Here it's not collocation. You need to understand how and where these things are used. Collocations are for other prepositions. There are a category of them like that. But in on it is specifically based on how it occupies that particular space. So in reference to how in, on, and at are used as prepositions of place, we decide it based on where they are located, right? So if there is an enclosed space, just let me finish, you can speak after that. If there's an enclosed space, right? If I'm talking about enclosed spaces, then I use the preposition in, right? So look at this sentence. I am in the office, right? I can also say I am at the office. Both are grammatically correct. But what is the difference? When I say I'm in the office, I mean that I'm inside, right? Literally inside the office space. I'm occupying the space of the office. But when I say at office, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm inside the office. I can be anywhere, in the premises or the compound of the office, and I can say I'm at the office. When I say in, I mean I'm inside. I'm in the space of the office. Okay. So whenever you talk about an enclosed space, then the choice of preposition among in, on, at would be in. But if you're talking about, premises or surroundings or so on and so forth, then it would be at. And if we are talking about the placement of something on a surface, right? If there's a surface involved, then you use on. Right? These are the three different ways in which you use.
Ma'am, can you repeat when we use at?
At is when there is no specificity to where your location is. You're somewhere, closer to that place. You're in the premises or somewhere in the compound or the area where it belongs. Like I'm at the office. I'm at the college, right? So it doesn't mean an exact location, but you're somewhere near to that place. Okay. Okay. So your question in the beginning, I work on the fields, in the fields, I work in the fields. You're right. Your answer is right, but you need to know why we use in over on and not just, depend on your previous knowledge of English that, yeah, it has to be in the field. Have an answer for why it is in the field and not out. Okay. So that when you are asked questions with regards to other things, you can answer them correctly, right? Fields may not appear in the exam, something else may come. So you should be able to make a sense of how.
Ma'am, there is a problem with your voice.
There's a problem with what?
With your audio.
Audio?
Yeah.
I think it's fine only. There's nothing that is saved. The network is steady. What is the problem? You can't hear me?
It's breaking.
Ma'am, actually your voice is breaking.
Okay, really? Fine now? A little better?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, we are done almost. So, did you get the difference between in and at when used for time and place?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
okay. So We'll look at some questions in the next class along with our.
So the reason that we use in for fields because it is a certain location and it is an enclosed space.
It's an enclosed space, right? The person is
Yes,
asking within an
yes,
enclosed
ma'am. It's
space.
a bounded area.
Yeah, it's a bounded area, or it's yeah, correct. You can either say enclosed space or you can say a boundaried area, right? Bounded area, boundaried area. Anything that encloses a boundary would be considered an enclosed space. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So, like the ship sail on the water, right? Or it can also sail in the water. It will sail in the waters if the boundaries of that would be specified. I can say the ship sails in the Indian Ocean because I am specifically giving you the boundary, right? If it is just the ocean, then I will say on the ocean or on the sea, on the waters, right? So that's the difference. If a boundary is specified, if an enclosed space is specified, then it has to be in. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, okay, there are a couple of questions here. We have, I think, few more minutes. We'll look at these questions and close.
Ma'am, I had a doubt.
Regarding?
Regarding prepositions and adverb.
Okay, go ahead.
So what is up in backup? Is it a preposition or a adverb?
Sorry, come again. What is that?
In backup, the word up, is it a
okay, back
preposition
up.
or yes?
In backup, yes, it's a preposition. Up is a preposition. Yes.
But we know up is I mean here up is a adverb. In the
Why is it
lecture
an
you
adverb?
said that. In lecture you
No,
said
no.
that.
See, backup is a phrasal verb, right? And the speciality of a phrasal verb is that its meaning is not related to either of the words that's used to form that complex. Like back and up, both will not give you any meaning connected with. I mean, like, no mean the word backup's meaning is not related to the literal meaning of either back or up, right? So that doesn't matter. So the formation needs to be an adverbial. I think you're confused because you consider up as a preposition and for the other cases it was adverb. Keep
Yes.
in mind both adverbs and prepositions come under a larger category called adverbials. I mentioned that in the lecture, but because that's like a new term for a lot of us, we keep saying only preposition all the time. But both are categorized as adverbials. So whether you take a preposition or an adverb, they both belong to that larger category of adverbials. That's what forms your phrasal verbs. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. But up as a word is used as a preposition, no doubts about it.
Okay.
In the phrasal verb, the story is different. Okay. All right. I think we did not left with much time. Do you have another session to attend?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. In that case, we'll not continue. Let's call it a day. Fine. Okay. All right. So we'll discuss this and a few questions from Inon at for next class and also articles. Until then, if you
Excuse
have
me,
any
ma'am.
doubts, you can please. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Any question?
Ma'am, I have a doubt from the practice assignment to week 3. Question number 1.
Okay. Just
Difference
a minute.
between the wide
Just a
and
minute. Just a minute. Wait a minute. Rest of you, we are closing the session. So if you want to leave, you can leave. If you have doubts, you may stay back. We'll meet next week. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Okay. Go on. Your practice assignment week 3. What is the question?
ma'am, difference between the wide and board.
White and bold or wide and bold?
Ma'am, wide and board.
And what is the question? Difference between wide and bold? There should be something else also, right, with it? What is this question about? What is the exact question? Do you
Ma'am,
have the
question
question?
number 1, practice assignments to week
That's
3.
fine. I don't have the question with me. It would be nice if you can read out the question for me. What is the
Ma'am,
difference
wait for
between
1 minute. I am signing the Chrome.
Ma'am, I'm just asking you another thing. Can you please share this PDF with us? The
These
PDF.
PDFs could already be shared if I'm not wrong. Please check your supplementary tab section in the dashboard, right? I think all of them are already shared there. We actually, if not, please write to us. We'll upload it. But as far as I know, I think it's uploaded. If it is not, just write to us, maybe on the forum or group somewhere, and somebody will do it. Okay.
Before the class or after the class it will be shared?
No. See, all the PDFs are already, usually we upload it in the beginning of the semester, irrespective of the class or not. So you can find all of them as a set there week-wise. So try and see if you are able to access. If not, you write to us.
Okay, ma'am, got them. Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Ma'am, can I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Ma'am, practice assignments 2, question number 1, difference between wide and broad. Board. Ma'am, here it is written that the wide and broad both are adjective, and we have to match the first column with the other column.
We need to match.
So they are both given as adjectives. Board is also given as adjectives.
Ma'am, well, it's actually broad.
Broad. Okay. All right. Wide and broad. Okay. All right. So what is the problem? What are you not able to do? Who was asking the question? What did you not understand? And that is what I want to know. Yeah, go ahead. What happened? Is she speaking? Is it just
Ma'am,
me who
here broad and wide. Ma'am, the matching one is daylight, soldiers or ascent, or another one is April, area, margin. So, ma'am, what should we use?
What should you use? I think if there's daylight, then it has to be broad daylight, right? Broad and daylight will go together. Rest of the things I did not.
Ma'am, what is the difference between wide and broad? Because the synonyms have both have the same.
No, wide and broad are two different things. They have different meanings. And it cannot be wide daylight. Also, this is a question in word collocation, like what I was telling you before. Even if there are similarities of, shades of similarities between the words wide and broad, you cannot say wide daylight. You have to say broad daylight because that is a collocative usage. Okay. So this is also to check if you understand, what pair of words are placed rightly with each other. This is I think this is there in that lecture on vocabulary.
Ma'am, what about
Like
the soldiers? Soldiers. No, ma'am, soldiers, nahi, soldiers.
Shoulders. Okay. Shoulders, what are the other words you have in the other group?
Ma'am, one group is daylight, ascent,
The other group. The other group, don't tell me the ones in the group where shoulder is there. Tell me the other one.
Ma'am, area, margin, or April.
Area, margin, or
April.
Ma'am, it's appeal.
Appeal. Okay. So, It has to be wide appeal, broad daylight, and shoulder. What is the other one? I did not get the words on the other column. In the other column. What other words do you have in the column? You have shoulder. Tell me that first.
Ma'am, daylight and ascent.
Okay. Okay. All right. And now the other one. There's broad and there's wide. And what are the other two?
Ma'am, it was done. Pair of or set of.
Pair of or set of?
Ma'am, what you are asking?
I'm asking what are the other two words in the column which have broad and wide? You said there's broad and wide in one column, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are the other words in that column?
Pair of or set of.
Pair of or set of. Okay. Pair of, set of, broad, wide, and then the other one you have daylight, shoulder, appeal, and there's one more, right? What is that?
Area, margin.
Area and margin. There are 5 words.
Which is it?
No, ma'am, it's a group of daylight, ascent, shoulders. And one group is appeal, area, margin.
Can you please tell us the question number and the assignment number? Because I can't find out this question.
It's 3.2 activity assignment question number 1.
So then maybe it has to be wide margin and broad shoulders.
Actually, there are 4 options with 3 words each.
Oh, really? Okay. I'll do one thing.
I'm getting different question.
No, that's because there's randomization, right? Practice questions. So everyone will not get the same questions for practice. But wait, I'll do one thing. I'll check in the question bank and get back to you, okay? Because I am finding it difficult to address this without having the question at hand. So you come back again and remind me about this. Meanwhile, I'll also take a look at the question. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, what is means of the bisyllabic and the homonyms?
Bisyllabic, bisyllabic means a word that contains 2 syllables. Okay, like for example,
Contain.
Contain or
Ma'am, what you have said after contain?
Contain. Contain is disyllabic because it has 2 syllables. It's con and then tain, right? Those kind of words are called disyllabic words. And what's the second one you asked? Homonym or homophone? What was that?
Ma'am, please repeat again.
Disyllabic words, they usually are words with 2 syllables, right? As in the words like contain. Okay. So con and tain, it has 2 parts in that word, right? That parts are referred to as syllables. And just give me a moment. Yeah, so it has 2 parts and words like that are called disyllabic. Okay.
Ma'am, one more is homonyms.
Homonyms, right? Not homophones, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So see, homonyms are the words that have same sounds but different meaning. Okay. Each of both the words, they have, something like deer and deer, D-E-A-R and D-E-E-R. Okay, sound the same but have different meanings, right?
Ma'am,
Okay.
but in lecture it
Same
was
sounds or
that the
same
same sound but different meaning. It's a homophone.
sound but Uh, Homonyms and okay, yeah. Homophones will have same sounds, that's right. And homonyms will have, I think, same spelling or pronunciation, if I'm not wrong. Is that right?
Ma'am, I don't know about the homonyms, but I know about the homophones.
No,
It is given
homophones
in
are the ones
lecture.
that's right. Homophones will have the same set of sounds. Homonyms will have the same spelling or pronunciation, but different meanings. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one more doubt is that why we are not using I shall instead of I will. Means I shall is more prominent than the I will.
No. So I, shall, and will are both right. They're accepted grammatically as right usage. But these days, in the modern English usage or in the recent times, shall has been replaced with will for most of the work. Shall is considered a little, old-fashioned use. So most of the times now we are using will instead of shall. But it is not wrong. People will not mark you wrong if you use I shall. Shall is a model verb and it will have other specific functions like to be used for permissions or to show obligations, right? Legal obligations. These days only you will find it mostly used in the legal documents, but even there you will see a shift now. They've replaced shall with will there as well. They're in the process, and maybe not everywhere, but we're seeing an increasing use of will over shall everywhere now. But they're right. They're not wrong. And they have mostly the same meaning. It's not very different. There's no question of prominence. It's about how frequently or how, um, often are these things used. In that sense, if you look at it, will is now used more than shall everywhere with the same function.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one more. Difference between the inflation and the derivative is that in inflation changes in same part of a speech, but derivative means change in different part of a speech. Is I am right? Ma'am, I am right
Inflections.
or wrong?
So I think what you were trying to say is that inflections don't change the category of the word. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that is right. That's right. But derivatives can change the category of words. Yes, that's right.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. All
Ma'am,
right.
I have a question.
Go on.
Ma'am, in grade 4 assignment, I know we are not talking about grade 4 assignment, but still, there are some parts where it is given a voice record, and from there we have to listen and then do it. So, in the exam, when we will be giving the quiz one exam, will there be any questions of that we have to listen something
No, I
and
don't
then
think so.
work on it?
No, I don't think we have audio questions anymore. As far as I know, I don't think you have any audio recordings. We'll have other questions.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I'm
Ma'am,
down regarding 7 July, there will be a test. So the syllabus will be of 4 weeks or first 2 weeks?
4 weeks, 4 weeks.
Oh, thank
Qualifiers will have always 4 weeks.
Okay.
Someone's
And
hand is
ma'am,
raised. Go ahead.
another thing that how can we find more words, because specifically grade 3 is more about understanding the words and their usage, so how can
How can
we?
you find more words? You will find more words when you practice and read and work more. There is no other way to finding more words, right? Do that slowly, little by little. Those words you can, most of them you can, guess with the context given. But vocabulary building is a slow and you know continuous process. There's no one-stop solution for that. Keep reading and keep looking for things. Even if I tell you go read like a one full list of it, it is an impractical suggestion because
And it will be
you
hectic
won't be able to
because we
get.
can't do
Yeah,
that.
it will be hectic. You cannot do. Definitely. So do it slowly. Just make it a habit to, keep reading something every day, and it will improve on its own. That's the only way. All of us have been doing that for years now. So that's the only method, nothing else.
Ma'am, basically I asked it because in the non-graded assignment there were many areas where I made mistakes and there were many
Okay.
faults. That's why I was like, I got that.
Yeah, got
Okay.
it. I got your
Yes.
question. We keep getting these questions, and every time, fortunately or unfortunately, this is the only response we can provide because there's no other way. Otherwise, we'll have to route to a technique where we only ask questions from a specific domain or something, but that we don't do. So you'll have to figure out what the problem is and then work on that. If it is vocabulary, then the only method is to read little more. Okay. Okay. Someone's
Okay.
hand is raised from a long time. If you have a question, please quickly. We'll take this and close for today. I think we are two
Ma'am,
meetings.
I have a doubt.
Yes,
In
yes.
practice assignment 3, we have to use which email ID? The student email ID or email ID
Student
that
email ID.
I use? Student email ID.
Use your student. Use that. That
Can
is
you, ma'am?
safer.
Okay, ma'am. Can you instruct how we have to like write answer inside the PDF? Like in blank document, we have to write only answers, or we have to
No, it
fill
does not
that
ask you
PDF?
to make a submission. No, does it? Does
What,
it
ma'am?
ask you to make a submission? Does this question ask you to make a submission?
Yes, ma'am.
I
It
didn't
says that
understand.
they create a document.
No, but do you have to submit is my question. You don't have to, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah,
You
ma'am.
have to submit.
Submit. There is an option that upload your PDF.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That I'm sorry, I cannot give you the right instructions for that. You do whatever is the instruction. If you want to upload it as a PDF, maybe you can do that if that is supported. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
I'm
So it
not
will be
sure what
safe to.
exactly that is. I'm unable to
So
answer.
it will be
It will
safe
be
to
saved
use a
automatically
student email
to
ID.
some
Yes.
drive, I think. Yeah. They might have a drive or something where it is.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Someone else also, your hands raised. Any question?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I had a quite similar
Yeah.
doubt with the last question. Like in the third activity, ma'am, I had a doubt like we have how we have to attach the like file in it. We have to make a PDF file or what, a Word file, something like that.
Anything would be fine. Anything would be fine. If it supports Word, you send that. If it says no, then maybe PDF.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. See you again then next week. We'll meet again and we'll discuss the other modules as well. Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining
ma'am.
me. See you again.
Thank you, ma'am.